Cinema Shogun here, and let me go ahead and start this video by saying this. Get the heck out of big cities right now if you can. If it is financially possible, get the heck out of these big cities. They have turned into literal hellholes. I mean, I guess some of the people there want it because they keep electing officials who are soft on crime, who release violent offenders the next day, releasing them on the streets to hurt your friends, your family, and possibly you, yourself. I mean, when the ish really hits the fan, when things really start getting bad, and some could argue they already are, the last place you're going to want to be is a big city. Like New York, San Francisco, Chicago. The list can go on and on. You know, I was once a kid. I don't want to say I'm from a small town, but I was once a kid from the South that had big city dreams. But once those big city dreams became more obtainable for me, I realized that that's not what I want at all. In fact, I hardly even want to vacation to these cities anymore. Why would I want to pay 5 times the price to live in a place that has people shooting up, stabbing people right outside of my apartment complex, right outside of my condo? I mean, the state of some of these places is just horrific. And it's starting to even get bad down south. Like last time I went to Atlanta, I mean, some areas were almost unrecognizable. So, I mean, my advice to people would be, if you can, get away. I know that some people are caught up in the big city lifestyle, but I assure you, there's a lot of beautiful places in America. A lot of places where you could go, where you would feel safer. Where you can drive down the street without seeing junkies and homeless cities, tent cities on every block. Now, one person who recently moved out of a big city is a guy by the name of Bob Lee. Some of you all have probably heard of Bob Lee. He's one of the founders of Cash App. Not too long ago, Bob Lee decided that things were getting way too bad in San Francisco. So Bob Lee decided to sell his multi-million-dollar mansion, and he decided to relocate him and his family down to Miami. But you see, Bob, he had a lot of business dealings out in San Francisco. So he had to return back to handle some business. But unfortunately for Bob, that was the last time that he would ever travel back to San Francisco. And he's not going to travel back to Miami because Bob was stabbed to death in San Francisco on his trip back to his town, the town that he left from because it had become too dangerous. How ironic is that? And on Bob Lee's trip back to San Francisco to handle this business, he was stabbed to death right outside in front of people who did not even try to help him. Now, as I stated, Bob Lee is one of the founders of Cash App, which I think it will make some people raise their eyebrows. Some people won't see anything fishy about this, but I will get into what is fishy about this soon. First, I want to dive into this article to give you all a better idea of what's going on here. Bob Lee, the Cash App creator, fatally stabbed in San Francisco. Mr. Lee, 43 years old, was chief product officer at the cryptocurrency startup MobileCoin. The case remains under investigation. Bob Lee, a tech executive and investor who was instrumental in creating the mobile payment service Cash App, was fatally stabbed on the street in San Francisco on Tuesday, according to his family. The San Francisco Police Department said it responded to a call about a stabbing in the Rincon Hill neighborhood about 2:35 a.m. on Tuesday. The police did not identify the victim, a 43-year-old man with apparent stab wounds who died at a hospital. But local CBS affiliate reported that friends of Mr. Lee said he was the victim, which was confirmed on Wednesday on Facebook by his father, Rick Lee of Miami, as well as public officials. The San Francisco District Attorney, Brooke Jenkins, said on Twitter that no arrest had been made in the case as of Wednesday morning. "We do not tolerate these horrific acts of violence in San Francisco," she said. Oh, really? Really? You don't condone these violent acts in San Francisco. Have you seen San Francisco lately? Every single day I am seeing new videos coming from San Francisco of people being attacked in the street in broad daylight, most of which are Asians. There is an attack on Asians in a lot of big cities, but especially in San Francisco. There's something going on out there with racial relations that no one wants to talk about, and we're seeing Asians getting violently attacked all the time in San Francisco. But it's not just Asians. I mean, crime is at an all-time high out there. And the junkies, I mean, it is ridiculous. So for them to act like, oh, we don't tolerate this type of stuff. Yes, you do. That is what you're known for. That is why this guy left. You do tolerate this. In fact, if they found the person who stabbed Bob Lee, they would probably release him in 2 weeks. But let's go forward. Matt Dorsey, the Democratic San Francisco city supervisor who represents Rincon Hill, a neighborhood of condos and corporate offices near the Bay Ridge, said on Twitter that Mr. Lee's death was a senseless tragedy that I know is made worse by the fact that no suspect is yet in custody. Mr. Dorsey said that he had been speaking with the police about the investigation into the stabbing since Tuesday. I've also heard from many constituents in the area, some of whom already voiced concerns to me about public safety challenges, and I'm asking everyone to cooperate with police in their investigation, especially those with access to surveillance video that may help. Late Wednesday, the San Francisco Police Chief William Scott confirmed in a release that Mr. Lee had been the victim, noting that the investigation was still in the early stages and extending his condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of Mr. Lee. There is no place for violent crime against anyone in our city, Chief Scott said in the statement. I want to assure everyone that our investigators are working tirelessly to make an arrest and to bring justice to Mr. Lee and his loved ones, just as we try to do on every homicide that occurs in our city. Mr. Lee had recently moved to Miami, according to his father's Facebook post. Rick Lee wrote that he moved in with his son after Bob's mother died in 2019, and they had made the move to Florida in October. It was not known how long Mr. Lee had been in San Francisco on his latest visit or where he was staying. Bob would give you the shirt off his back, his father wrote. He would never look down on anyone and adhere to a strict no judgment philosophy. That, ladies and gentlemen, may have been what got him hurt. We live in this society that is constantly telling you not to judge other people. And don't get me wrong. I think there's how can I put it? I don't think judging people is right. But at the same time, you should have these sensors that let you know, hey, I'm not trying to judge anyone, but that guy looks kind of scary. Maybe I want to walk on the opposite side of the street. You know what I mean? I don't want to judge anyone, but it's 2:35 in the morning. This guy looks like he's trying something fishy. Maybe I should watch out. So don't let this new age way of, oh, don't judge anyone. Don't judge a book by its cover. Oh, don't judge this person because they look this way. Don't let that be your downfall. You know, animals, they have it built in, like when you walk outside and a squirrel sees you, it runs up the tree because it does not know what you're capable of doing, right? The same thing goes with humans. Now, if I'm walking down the road and there's a 5'2" old lady walking down the street with her purse, minding her business, and I'm walking down the road, immediately I will assess that situation and I won't view her as a real threat. Now, you're walking down that same road and you see this big grungy dude walking with a freaking pipe in his hand. You know, tattoos covered everywhere. And I'm not saying there's a problem with people with tattoos. I'm just saying visualize the difference. You see that. Now, your sensors should tell you, hey, this person may be a threat, maybe not. But at the very least, they pose more of a threat than the old lady I just passed by. So maybe I should act accordingly. What's happening here is this new woke age and way of thinking. It's making people literally fall victim because they think, oh, I don't want to be prejudiced. I don't want to be viewed as a ist or a phobe or this person or that person if I shy away from this, or if I walk the opposite direction, or if I lock my car door. No, those are things you should be doing when you sense danger. So, was he some accepting person that I don't want to judge, so I don't want to sense the danger here when it's 2:30 in the morning and someone is approaching me with a knife? But hey, let's go forward. His brother, Tim Oliver Lee, also posted on Facebook about his brother's death. I was so fortunate to grow up with him, and I feel like I have lost a part of myself, he said. At the time of his death, Bob Lee, 43, was the chief product officer of MobileCoin, a cryptocurrency startup based in San Francisco. He was focused on improving financial systems, giving people more privacy. That's the issue. He was focused on giving people more privacy in their transactions and allowing them to send money across international borders without paying steep fees, said those who worked alongside him. In an outpouring of memories and anecdotes about Mr. Lee on social media posted on Wednesday. To do so, Mr. Lee tapped his deep experience in the technology world. Before he joined MobileCoin in 2021, he was the chief technology officer of the payment company Square, which was renamed Block in 2021. He was instrumental in the creation of Cash App, a service that allows users to quickly send and receive money from their phones. Mr. Lee initiated the first ever transaction on this service, sending $4 to Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter and chairman of Block. Mr. Dorsey called Mr. Lee's death heartbreaking on his social media site. Bob was instrumental to Square and Cash App, he wrote. In a screenshot of the 2013 payment, which Mr. Dorsey shared on social media, Mr. Lee can be seen congratulating Mr. Dorsey on his company's upcoming 4th anniversary. Mr. Dorsey, come here, I want to see you, Mr. Lee wrote. The message illustrated Mr. Lee's penchant for convening friends. Everywhere Bob went, he made friends. He did this by being a person who brought people together. He was loved far and wide because of his ability to build community, said a chief executive of MobileCoin. While Mr. Lee was perhaps best known for his work on Cash App, He was admired among engineers for his work as a software engineer at Google, where he worked on Android, an operating system for smartphones. He was also a startup advisor, investing in companies that included SpaceX and Clubhouse. Mr. Goldbard said on Twitter that Mr. Lee was like a brother to him and had a kaleidoscope mind. Pick a topic, and Bob would be right there with you, telling you all of the ways he had thought about the idea already. The chief executive of the design platform Figma, Dylan Field, said on Twitter that he had first met Mr. Lee in 2006. He didn't care that I was only 14, and we talked tech. We geeked out about programming. So they go on to share a lot of other excerpts from people who have shared their memories about Bob Lee, but I'm going to spare you all of that because I want to talk about something else that has to do with this situation. Now, of course, we talked about how crime in these big cities, it's on the rise. These big cities are getting more dangerous by the day. So I think that's something that we should all keep in mind. But, how many of you all have really been paying attention over the past 6 or 7 months? Let's just say the past 6 months. Because if you've been paying attention, then you know that a lot of these crypto billionaires, these crypto founders, these big wigs, these head honchos in the crypto game, they're dropping like flies. I mean, they are dying some mysterious deaths. From plane crashes to ski accidents, to some of them being kidnapped, and on various tropical islands. It has gotten really weird, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm not saying that Bob Lee is the latest example of this. Maybe Bob Lee just got stabbed in San Francisco. That sounds pretty believable when you look at how things are going in that city. But when you start connecting the dots, there's no denying that something weird is happening here. I believe in coincidences, but once you have too many coincidences adding up, then I think it's important to start connecting the dots to see if there's a connection. What they don't want us to do right now is to try to make a connection. But that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm not going to dive too deep into things. All I'm going to say is there's a pattern that has been happening over the past, I'm just going to say 6 months. It's probably been going on longer. But in the last 6 or 7 months, I can think of over half a dozen. This guy included, at least maybe even a dozen big crypto names who have mysteriously passed away. None of which have been from natural causes, no. These people are getting murdered, kidnapped. They're having freak accidents. And it's all coming in a time where our government is planning on rolling out their own cryptocurrency. It looks to me, and I'm not saying this is the case, I have to be careful here. But if you were just a casual observer and you saw all of this stuff happening and you knew that the government had a plan to roll out their own cryptocurrency, what would you think of all of this? Because in my mind, I'm looking at it like, oh, they're eliminating the competition. That's the way I'm viewing this. We have all of these people mysteriously dropping dead around the same time that our government is secretly trying to go ahead and roll out their own cryptocurrency, their Fed coin, their whatever they're going to call it. And it looks to me like they're eliminating some of the competition. Or they're getting rid of some of the great minds that know how all of this stuff works. Because the crypto game, it's complicated. I guarantee you 100%. The person that you talk to that tells you they're an expert on crypto probably doesn't know what they're talking about. Almost nobody knows what they're talking about when it comes to crypto, because crypto is fairly new and it is unpredictable. I understand it a little bit. I've made some investments. I've done some trading. So I know more than the average person, but I'm far from an expert. And even the experts I talk to, if they're being truthful, they'll tell you there's still there's this unknown, this uncertainty about all of this stuff. But as they stated in that article, Bob Lee was working on another cryptocurrency and working how to figure out to make transactions more private. That is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. They don't want private transactions. Crypto was created, like the concept was we were going to be able to trade this currency without it being really regulated, without any government having control of it. We're going to be able to trade this currency, right? Without interference. The whole concept of crypto was to have more privacy in your transactions, if you will. Now, the government does not want that. Why? Because they want to tax you. They want to make as much money as they can off of you. They don't want private transactions. In fact, they want to know where every last red cent goes. So Bob Lee made the mistake. I'm not saying what he was doing was bad, but in my opinion, he made the mistake of trying to work on making a more private type of cryptocurrency to where your transactions aren't as traceable, aren't as trackable, they're more private. And the US government wants the exact opposite. Now, we've talked about how some of these banks are collapsing. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now where other countries are moving on from the US dollar. They're forming coalitions to go ahead and cripple our economy. It's really getting weird out here, if you will, and really complicated. But all of this, it seems to be happening. It's just like with the trade derailments and everything we're talking about on this channel. In isolation, these things maybe won't be viewed as a big deal. Maybe they're nothing. But come on. Once all of this stuff starts adding up, it gets really weird to me. It gets really weird to me that we've had a dozen crypto billionaires within the last half a year or so mysteriously die or get murdered. And I know the average person doesn't realize that our government is working on their own cryptocurrency. They want to move us to a digital currency so they could track it better. That's why you go to some stores, they don't even take money anymore. During the lockdowns, if you will, over the past couple of years, a lot of places moved away from taking physical cash. Did any of you pull up to a restaurant, a fast food restaurant, and they say they no longer take change? Or you had to have the exact change when paying? All of this stuff is all tactics to move you closer and closer to a cashless society, which is where we are moving currently. Which is why I look at these banks collapsing and I wonder if all of this stuff is done on purpose. Like we're purposely being led straight into a digital currency, which is something that we do not want. Make no mistake about it. You may think that it's more convenient. And even me, I'm someone, I don't use cash that much. I use my card. I pay right off of my cell phone. I don't use cash that much, but I understand the importance of having cash. I understand that once cash is gone and we're in a cashless society, they have more control over you than ever. And that's what's happening here. We're moving to a point where everything is going to be digital, to where if they want to turn things off, click of a button, now you no longer have access to your money. Click of a button, now you can no longer drive your car. Click of a button, now you can no longer use your electric stove. We're moving to a point where they can totally control us. They can totally control us. We're moving to a point where you can't take $5 out and put it in your kid's birthday card. the government's going to need to know where that $5 is going. So, I don't want to go off for too long here. We'll have more conversations about this. But as far as Bob Lee's death goes, could it have been one of these typical crimes committed in San Francisco? Yes. Totally believable. Could it have been something more? Could it be something that is connected to all of these other deaths? That's something that I'm really wondering here, because I find it very odd that all of these crypto people are just falling and dropping like flies out of nowhere. Let me know your thoughts about this, though, down in the comments. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.